So is this entire facade of the Azadi League, now does it all come crashing down? Have they sold themselves to our pesky neighbor, to those who want to grab our land? Joining us on the debate this evening, Nabi, spokesperson of the Awami Itehad party, Mufti Nasir-ul-Islam, the Deputy Grand Mufti, and Shabnam Lone, advocate of the Supreme Court, along with Colonel Narasimhan, author and strategic affairs expert, Sushant Sareen, senior fellow of the Vivekananda International Foundation. But first, going across to Maroof Raza. These videos, Maroof Raza, debunk the claim of those who say that violent separatist movement in Kashmir is entirely homegrown. There is nothing indigenous about it, Maroof.
You see, Anand, let me put a few facts across. One is that if you look at ever since the insurgency started in Kashmir, there has always been a very prominent and a strong layer of external militants and terrorists who continue to lead the movement. There have been a lot of local Kashmiris from time to time who've joined the fray. More recently, as we saw in the evidence of Buranwani and many others who followed suit, the latest information is that about 6% of the attacks that have taken place in the recent year are the percentage equivalent to what we were seeing in the peak period of Kashmir's insurgencies in the past. So therefore, the attacks have gone up from 2.5% to 6% of the peak. However, what Pakistan intends to do, and that is available evidence with telephone and radio transmissions recorded by our intelligence agencies, that they don't want to let up on the momentum of what they thought they had achieved with the post-Buranwani uprising or anti-India sentiment expressed in parts of Kashmir, not all of Kashmir.
Exactly.
The second point to understand is that while the terror groups are under pressure to deliver more from their mentors and masters, there is now a divide between the Pakistani military establishment and the mentors of terror groups in the intelligence agencies. To what extent will the military establishment continue to support these terror groups who have become in some ways a strategic liability for Pakistan and not an asset anymore?
Okay, Maroof, please hold on to that second point. And the third and most important aspect is the winter months normally.
The first point that you've made, just 1 minute, Maroof.
I want to come back to that point in just a bit. Just the first point that you've made, because that's...
The winter months...
Yes, just the first point that you've made, Maroof. We'll come back to that because I really want to understand the second aspect that you raised and follow it up with what that means for the future. But for now, the first point that you've made, and I want to take it to the other side. Mr. Nabi, this is what Maroof Raza is saying, and this is what these videos prove. There is a little bit of uncomfortable edginess on the other side, that there is normalcy being restored. That situation is coming back to normal after that unrest that they had constantly provoked through the summers and afterwards through the end of last year. Now, what more proof do you want? These are terrorists from two different groups, LET and Hizbul. These are two terrorists who've come from across the border, who are marching towards the valley, who are having fun together, who are training together, sitting and plotting together. What more proof to say that there is nothing indigenous about the kind of unrest and the kind of attacks that we are seeing in the valley, Mr. Nabi? Inam Nabi, can you hear me? Okay, we seem to have a problem with the audio line there. Taking across to the other panelists, we've got Shabnam Lone.
May I?
Yes, Maroof, just 1 minute. But let me just quickly get a response from Shabnam Lone on this. Shabnam Lone, these two videos, in one they're walking together, two different terror groups. Their leaders are sitting in Pakistan, they've been harbored by Pakistan, they train there, they send these people there. How can anybody then turn around and say that that unrest was completely and wholly just within the valley, initiated by us?
Well, the first thing is that we have to understand, and I think we'll be all in agreement that Kashmir is a quagmire of internal and external dimensions. Now, going to the external dimension, it would be countered by aggressive, positive diplomacy, and the internal dimension has to be understood. Now, Kashmir continues and it remains a political landmine. The ordinary Kashmiri is the one who gets trapped in this political landmine. And landmines, Tamanna, they kill, they maim, and they destroy. So we will
the ordinary Kashmiri Shabnam Lone, and this is Tanvi here. This is Tanvi here, Shabnam Lone. The ordinary Kashmiri gets stuck in this because they are being provoked and misled by people who are on the payrolls of the Pakistanis. This is the reality. The external reality, the impact is because of this.
Give me.
So don't take the credit away from what we are showing right now.
1 minute to explain this.
Go ahead.
No, listen to me. For the common Kashmiri, this is what I am speaking. You can't make up his mind. You have to understand the ground reality. These militants, they survive because they get ground support. Unless and until they will not get ground support, yes, they get support from the public. Now, question is the successive governments in Jammu and Kashmir, will they be able to handle it? The answer is no. To be fair to Mehbooba Mufti or to any incumbent chief minister, these governments are just seen as mere development planks, because it is on this basis that they get the votes. They are in cahoots with separatists, with these elements, and they tell them that you give us votes, we give you development. But development does not give us a solution.
You know what, Shabnam Lone?
We need to get our act together now.
But
It's high time.
Shabnam
Generations and generations of Kashmiris are suffering. I personally want a solution for Kashmir now.
Yes, but Shabnam Lone, here's the problem. What happens is, this video shows...
Permanent. For peace.
Yes, Shabnam Lone. What happens is, those people who are saying that we are fighting and these boys and these youth of Kashmir are taking arms because if it's an indigenous movement, it is for Azadi. This entire Azadi League stands squashed tonight. Because what this video very clearly shows is that these youth, these youth will not be joining.
Have you ever,
no, this is Anand here. This is Anand here. No, Shabnam, one sec. Let me just.
I have never said I want Azadi, but I want.
I didn't say that you.
Justice in Kashmir.
I didn't say you want Azadi.
Liberty, equality, fraternity.
No, those who say
some things which are very germane to democracy.
But the point I'm making,
it is missing. It is palpably missing there.
No, what you see when you see these youth hanging these youngsters who should be skilled, who should be working, who should be not having AK-47s and walking around and gallivanting and rollicking in the snow. What you get to understand is there is a direct hand of Pakistan. When you see Hafiz Saeed and Syed Salahuddin together, you also realize that it is the Lashkar, it is Pakistan that is recruiting these youth, that is taking them across, training them and bringing them back to kill their own. Now this is something which is, this charade has to be moved out. This is nothing but a land grab effort, Sushant, Sareen. And Maroof, you wanted to make, you wanted to make a third point. Make that third point because two things that you talked about, that and Shabnam also said, there is one internal aspect, the external aspect, but what we are trying to say with this video is, let's just drop this entire facade and tell those people who are saying that we are here representing the interest of Kashmiris, they have sold themselves to the Pakistanis. They are not representing the interest of Kashmiris. They are not talking about autonomy, they are not talking about self-determination and all that. They've just said, let Pakistan grab our land, let them take it because we have sold ourselves to them. This is that lot, Maroof.
Anand, you see, we must understand that as far as the insurgency in Kashmir is concerned, as Ms. Lone has brought out, as I also brought out, there are two very distinct elements of the insurgency in Kashmir. One is the external element, which is clearly monitored and managed by the Pakistani military jihadi nexus. And there is an internal element, which is a disgruntled population, many of the youth who have only seen violence for 25 to 27 years, and they feel, but there is a level of frustration that has set in with them, that itni humne apni qurbani di hai, lekin kuch bhi hasil nahi kiya hai. And they are not able to comprehend what to do next. where we have gone wrong as an Indian state, where we have failed to provide a follow-up narrative on what to do when there is certain element of stability in Kashmir. But to argue that the insurgency is indigenous, no insurgency in history has survived indigenously. It always prospers because of external elements. And external elements get involved as a consequence of the failure of governance internally. Now, if you understand that cycle, you'll understand. So, for Pakistan to deny its hand is complete humbug, and for Kashmiris to insist that single-handedly they've been taking on the Indian military establishment is also to paint a larger-than-life picture. No. Quite clearly, the military dimension is led by Pakistan, and the largest element of militants and the most lethal and devastating attacks have always come by Pakistani trained and sponsored militants. Period.
No, not just that, but Maroof, Raza, as I bring in Sushant, Sareen and our other panelists, my other question is, as we look at this video...
That's a great point, Mr. Maroof, Raza.
Yes, he has made a very
balanced point.
Yes, it is a balanced point, Shabnam Loan, and I respect that point of view. But what I'm trying to say is that this external influence has to stop. It is this external influence and it is this lot that have sold themselves. Because when we see this video, how do you blame India here? When you have a bunch of LET and Hizbul terrorists who claim the lives of others, have expertise in bloodshed, all in the name of freedom, playing with snow without a care in the world, had Pak taken action against them, where do you see the scope to blame India? My point is, sir, they are all going across, Sushant, Sareen. It is Pakistan which is training them, equipping them with guns and coming back and saying, come and shoot people here in your own land. Create strife. This is a land grab technique. This is not giving Kashmiris any sort of Azadi. This entire claim is false. It's got to be debunked and told to the people that they're taking you for a ride. They're creating strife so that they can grab the land.
But Anand, when was the Kashmiri, this uprising or insurgency ever about Azadi? The guys who were at one point of time, although I have very, very serious differences about their stand, which was the JKLF, which in the initial years, 89, 90, even 91, were talking a bit about Azadi, and that was the thing, and the Pakistanis kind of latched on to them and used them as a weapon. After that, after 91 or so, the so-called Azadi element was completely wiped out. And what took over was the Hizbul Mujahideen, which was an out-and-out Islamist organization, which fed in very well with the Pakistani narrative. So this was never about Azadi for Kashmir. It was, as you very rightly put it, you call it a land grab, you call it irredentism, you call it what you will. But that is what it was. It was out-and-out an Islamist movement. I don't see how you can, quibble about that fact, number one. Number two, let us also face the facts that the Pakistanis never really ever trusted the Kashmiris. So as a result, even the Hizbul Mujahideen was made to shift base into POK, from where their entire operations were run. Finally, when the Hizbul Mujahideen got wiped out, the Pakistanis put in their own people. So from around 95, 96, the entire terrorism in Kashmir was actually conducted by the Pakistanis. Of course, the Hizbul face was always there because they wanted to give this a kind of a Kashmiri veneer, which is what was done. And the Hizbul cadres, whatever remained in the Kashmir state at that point of time, were guys who would actually only provide logistic support, act as guide, provide a safe house and stuff like that, maybe act as scouts for them, but nothing more than that. The actual operations, the actual terrorist operations were always either carried out by the Jaish-e-Mohammed fellows or by the Lashkar-e-Taiba or some of the other Pakistani terror groups which are operating out there. So in a manner of speaking, there is really nothing new about this. And the reason why the Pakistanis were brought in was that the Pakistanis never trusted the Kashmiris, and they still don't. Now that there has been once again a sort of a reinvigoration in the post-Burhanwani phase, or even while Burhanwani was alive, there has been this thing that, okay, let's tap into this thing and once again. And the reason why the Pakistanis are now once again in this very close compact with the so-called local terrorist groups is because they are now coming in out here to actually, they think that these kids, 19, 20, 22-year-old kids who think, there's some kind of a sex appeal that you latch onto a rifle and you walk in the snow and you are seen playing with snowballs. It's also a recruiting video, incidentally. It shows how cool they are, how carefree they are, how much they have, and it's very ISIS in its orientation. That's the kind of
and exactly why it needs to be discussed now, Sushant.
What kind of people they are.
And exactly why it needs to be highlighted and discussed now, Sushant. Like you said, this is nothing new.
No, one second.
It's not
one point more.
Okay.
Allow me to make one point. more. The reason why the Pakistanis are now coming in such big numbers is because they think that these kids, these are callow youth who will not know how to actually carry out ops. So they're going to come and train them. They're going to come and direct their operations. They're going to do the whole shebang so that they can take this terrorism to another level. That the Kashmiris are going to get used by it is of course true. But what is also true is that many of the so-called youth, and I have a bit of an issue when you call them disgruntled about what was being denied to them in Kashmir, but that's another debate. But the reason why many of these youth are getting inspired is because there is a new or what you might call a neo-Islamism of the ISIS variety,
yes, Sushant, just taking that point across to the other side, like you made the point about the Kashmiris being used, so they may be misled by these people, by these videos, by the money that is sent in. Now, why is it, Mr. Inam Nabi, that you would allow people to fall prey to that? Why is it that you would still give justification and still give credence to any other theory? What has been done in the past is widely acknowledged is that these two terrorist groups get together and send across their men, send or train people and send across these terrorists to create unrest. What has happened even since the Burhan Wani incident? They tried to take advantage of it, Mr. Nabi. They lined up terrorists all across the LOC, hundreds and hundreds of them trying to infiltrate every now and then to create disturbance in your valley, in our Kashmir valley. Why is it that you would want to give credence to Pakistan or give them any, allow them to get away with it?
Let me tell you that history is witness whenever any state has deprived the rights of fundamental rights of the people. It has given birth to people like Yasir Arafat, Subhash Chandra Bose, Burhan Wani and others. If you are
don't equate them in the same. Inam Nabi, don't do this.
What right
you want to have a debate or you want to have a fight, sir? Please, please don't. Don't equate Burhan Wani with Subhash Chandra Bose. Don't do that.
Can you
don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that, Inam Nabi. Inam Nabi, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that because you are part of a democracy. You have a democratic setup. You have an elected government. No rights have been denied to anybody. This was a boy whose mind was corrupted by the Pakistanis. They infiltrated and they're corrupting youth in your valley, in our valley, in Kashmir, and this is where it is happening. It's happening in your state, it's happening in my country, and you are trying to justify it. Don't do it. You want to see an 18-year-old and a 20-year-old with an AK-47 in his hand and pose for photographs and kill people? And you're calling that valor. Inam Nabi, don't do that, sir. We wanted to have a structured debate. Don't do this. Don't denigrate the debate. Don't try and paint terrorists as heroes or martyrs. Don't do that, sir. Because tonight, that's what's been exposed in Inam Nabi. What's been exposed is this is not a fight. This is not a fight for freedom. This is not a fight for justice. It's just that you have been sold out to Pakistanis who just want to grab our land.
And you still can't
That's all they are doing. They are doling out the money and they are trying to give you a paint a picture that you will become a hero, and then they are going and sending the youth of our country as cannon fodder to die on our own soil, and you are painting them as martyrs. Don't do that. Sit down and tell them you are making a mistake. Inam Nabi, be a responsible person tonight and say that the growth of Kashmir, the development of Kashmir is not with AK-47s that have been given by Pakistanis. It is by becoming Kashmiris, it is by rising as Kashmiris, it is by education, it is by asking for what the Kashmiris deserve. They don't deserve this.
When there is
They
no
don't
peace, what
deserve.
you will do to
They
the
don't
development?
deserve to be looted, plundered, and then violated, and the minds corrupted by Pakistanis.
you don't have-
This
when
is
you
what
don't-
Pakistan is
when
doing.
you
Don't you
don't-
realize? Or have you also sold yourself to them, sir? When you
Allow
sit
me
here
to
and
talk.
talk and
Allow
equate
me to-
terrorists with martyrs.
Allow me to talk.
Don't make these
Martyrs.
comparisons.
400
Inam Nabi, you're supposed to make a fair debate. You have a fair point. Make a rational point, sir. Everybody will listen to reason, sir. Nobody will listen to nonsense. Please don't do it, sir.
Hello.
Yes. Yes, Mr. Nabi, go ahead.
I said, if you claim that there are 3-tier systems on the border and your army is efficient and vigilant,
Sir,
how
our
people
army.
have sneaked in?
Our army.
Number one.
Our army.
Don't interrupt.
Say our army. Say our army. Say our army.
They have killed us. How I can claim
Say
they are our army?
who has
They have
killed?
They have killed thousands of Kashmiris.
Yeah, so how many people have the Lashkar killed? How many people has Hafiz Saeed
we
killed?
cannot forget
How many
the
people? Why is your
Pura-
blood not boiling when Syed Salahuddin, who's
we
supposed to be a
cannot forget
Kashmiri,
the
goes and
Pura
embraces
massacre.
Hafiz
We
Saeed?
cannot forget
Why
the
is your
Pura
blood not
massacre.
boiling then?
There have been
Why is
hundreds
your
of
blood not
massacres.
boiling
How I
then?
can-
Don't do that, Inamun Nabi. Don't do that. Argue a point. You might want to make a
Anand,
point as a Kashmiri, but don't bat for Pakistan. Don't bat for terrorists. Don't bat for terrorists. Don't bat for Pakistan. Don't justify youth being handed over AK-47 rifles. Don't do this stuff.
As per UN declarations,
Don't do this. Don't do this. This is not about Kashmir at all. This is about Pakistan wanting to grab our land. This is just their nefarious intention because they don't have the welfare of anybody in mind except themselves.
Those who have taken arms, they have not gone.
They
for-
don't-
It is because you allow them to be misled, Mr. It is because, Mr. Nabi, you allow them to be misled. You allow these youths to be misled. It is because you give credence to this kind of a Pak narrative and you take it to those people and you allow them to be misled.
not Pak narrative.
If you are so
Whenever
sympathetic,
anybody tells you truth,
if you are
that
so
is not
sympathetic
Pak narrative
towards
to
Syed
people.
Salahuddin, why don't you go and live in that country? If you are so against your own people, if you are so against our own army, why don't you go and live in that country and join that terror group? Arsan Singh, the ground reality is this desperation that you are showing. The ground reality is that people of Kashmir braved the unrest. Those children still went to the schools. They wanted to give their exam. They wanted to continue with their education. You didn't allow them to. You tried to instigate them. You tried to provoke them with the help of Pakistan. The ground reality, Arsan Singh, is that while the Aam Aadmi of Kashmir has decided to move on, has democratically elected a government a year and a half, 2 years ago, has come out in large numbers to do that, is still braving this unrest and wants education and a job. It is people like these who take the Pak narrative and try and convert it into their own insurgency narrative. That is the point, Arsan Singh.
Yes, I'll focus on the issue at hand, and to begin with, I'll also, what Madam Lone said about the internal and external aspects. I'll speak about that, but firstly, let me preface it by saying that separatism or Azadi is nothing but it is a euphemism for Pakistan, pro-Pak. The second aspect is that we all know the symbiosis between the Hizbul Mujahideen and Lashkar-e-Taiba, because the Hizbul Mujahideen is more conversant with the logistics and the territory within Kashmir, and the Lashkar-e-Taiba has more finances and training facilities. So that is the arrangement between them, and that is how Burhan Wani was talking to this guy, this fellow Hafiz Saeed. But having said that, when you see this video, what is it? Firstly, just allow me to speak. Allow me to speak.
Student was last time martyred here.
Just allow me to speak, for God's sake. For God's sake, allow me to speak. Allow me to speak. This video I consider is nothing button inspired leak, and it has got heavy messaging. Now there I come, Mr. Lone, what is the internal and external messaging? The internal messaging it is to the internal constituency that look, we are still capable of operating in winters, and jihad is not dampened by winters or snow. The second message is that we have not been hit by the surgical strike or the demonetization, and the third is that we can still acquire targets during winters at will. So these are 3 or 4 internal messaging that they have tried to do. As far as the external messaging is concerned, I mean, it is, we all know that there is a new ISI chief, there is a new army chief, and more importantly, madam, there is going to a change as far as the leadership in the US is concerned. Then there is also a geopolitical flux taking place, Russia, China, and the Pakistanis meeting in Moscow.
Sir, we know all of that.
Therefore, there is an external messaging, and there is an internal messaging. Now, this gentleman before me, he said about that no country, he compared Subhash Chandra Bose with I don't know who, Burhan Wani or somebody. Now let me remind you one thing and be very clear about it. That look, when India as a nation state looks at Kashmir, I look at the entire historical facet. I am proud of your Hindu past, I am proud of your Buddhist past, and I am also proud of your Islamic present. Unlike Pakistan, which sees you only through jihadi prism and thinks that you can also turn into jihadi animals. Now, Madam Lone, I don't care if generations are wasted to save the civilization, but we will not throw you to the wolves. We can sacrifice generations of Indians, we can sacrifice generations of, in Kashmir, but look, we will preserve our civilization at any cost. We will not throw you to the wolves like the Balochis have been thrown to them. We will not allow the Punjabis of Pakistan to undermine Kashmirians. Territoria is quite reasonably strong for that, and if you think that there is the territoriality of Pakistan is final, please go back to 1971. So therefore, we will preserve the civilization because it questions the very basis of our nation, and we will not throw you to those wolves.
Colonel Singh, this is something which has been forgotten by those who are talking about the issues of Kashmiris and what their issues in their engagement with the Union of India has been. And this narrative, Mufti Sahab, good evening. This narrative is something which needs to change.
Good evening to you.
This narrative is something which needs to change. You do not want the youth to think that the path of arms and the path that Pakistan is trying to propagate on our soil is the right one. We do not want, see, today there is no difference between the Lashkar and Hizbul. This video that's been put out not only shows that it is Pakistan that's calling the shots, but it is also showing how they are misleading the youth of the country. What glory is it in holding a gun in your hand and frolicking in the snow? Do you want a 18, 20-year-old of Kashmir to do this? Do we need our people our youngsters to do this, or should they be working towards building a stronger Kashmir and hence a stronger India?
Please. Did you finish?
Yes, Mufti Sahab.
Give me 30 seconds uninterrupted. As you know that Kashmir has gone through turmoil for last 5 months. 18,000 of our boys got injured. 1,400 are blind. Our hearts are bleeding. And I don't understand where from you have picked up this subject when you have the report from Yashwant Sena about Kashmir. He is saying that Kashmiris are traumatized.
Yes, it is, sir.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. Who's responsible?
Nobody is denying that.
Who's
Our hearts bleed too, Mr. Mufti. The point is, are you going to be blind to the reality of what's caused that, and are you going to allow it to happen again?
And resolve. Just ma'am, just wait and understand what I am saying. Let India resolve this Kashmir issue. And all other stakeholders will not have any right to interfere in the matters of India and Pakistan once this matter is resolved.
With who? What
What do you mean with
resolution?
Pakistan? What do you mean with Pakistan?
Now here is another person.
Pakistan is a stakeholder.
In somebody like
Pakistan is a stakeholder.
Is it?
No.
Deputy
No.
Grand Mufti. You are Deputy Grand Mufti. Mufti
Yes.
Nasir-ul-Islam. You
Yes.
are
Yes,
batting for
you are right.
Pakistan. You are batting for Pakistan. You are forgetting the reality, or have you
I
also
represent-
behoven
I
yourself? Sir,
represent
how
the-
can you
I
make?
represent
How can you
people of
even
Jammu
make
and
an
Kashmir.
argument like this?
I
Yes,
represent
yes, there has
people
been
of Jammu
5
and
months of
Kashmir.
unrest.
I am their
Why
voice.
don't you turn around and
I am
say,
their
who
voice.
are the
You have
people?
seen.
Who are the
Why-
people?
why you have-
Who are the people? No, Mufti Saab, why didn't you ask who are the people who goaded these,
Yes.
who goaded these
Pakistani
youngsters,
army-
who goaded
army
these
did not-
youngsters, gave them 500 rupee
Pakistani
notes and a packet of biryani and
army-
said, "Jao pathar
army
phek ke
have
aao."
never come to
Who
this
was the
place
people?
then. And
Was
just
it wasn't
they have-
Lashkar
they have
Kader?
used the
Wasn't
collective
Lashkar
to
Kader
protect
leading the
our
people and
voice.
goading them, and weren't they the ones who were actually
Who?
pushing the unrest? So how is it that you don't want to
Anand,
blame
my
Pakistan for
question
this?
is- my
How is it
question to
that you don't see that
my
at all?
question
How
to
is
you
it that
who
that
is
escaped your eyes,
responsible
or
for
is
the
it that you don't see them at all? What is this narrative that you are
I see
pushing, Mufti?
everything with
What
my-
is this
with my
narrative
own
that you are
eyes.
pushing?
With
How
my-
can you say that? How can you say that? Who encouraged these children? Who encouraged these children to take to stone pelting and not go to schools and not go to work and then throw stores and ensure that the shutters of their own fellow Kashmiris are down? Who allowed this, sir? Who allowed this, sir? Who allowed this, sir?
You killed
Sir, why did, sir, today it is very clearly shown that when Sayyid Salahuddin embraces Hafiz Saeed and they say Lashkar and Hizbul is one, then there is no indigenous terror, sir. It is all coming from Pakistan, and those who have behoven themselves to
It is not
Pakistan,
coming from
sold their
Burhan
souls to
Wani was-
Pakistan,
Burhan
are not
Wani-
required on
Burhan
our
Wani
country,
is
on
the
our
son
soil.
of Soil.
And if they pick up the gun on our
Burhan
soil,
Wani
they will be
is
gunned down, sir. That is a message. Maroof, Raza, please put,
Okay.
please.
This is the only
Please
message
explain
which
the
you want to
Mufti.
give to the Kashmiris.
Please explain the Mufti.
Because you don't
Who
want
is
to
giving them
resolve
guns?
Kashmir issue.
Please explain
You
the
don't
Mufti.
have any
Who wants to
intention
grab
to
their
resolve
land?
Kashmir
Please explain to the Mufti
Anand.
who has the
It is
welfare
the
of Kashmiris
India
in
has
mind
blocked our
and who has got
India
Kashmir in their mind.
Anand.
Exports here.
Who wants
India
Kashmir
is
and who
occupational here.
wants the interest of the Kashmiris?
Anand.
Please explain to
Mr.
him.
Anand, India
Please
has
explain to the
occupied
Mufti.
Kashmir.
Please explain
India
to the
is an
Mufti.
occupation.
Or
Anand,
has he
let
been
me-
told
let me-
that this is what he has to say?
Anand.
This is what we want.
Maroof.
Anand,
You
may
cannot
I
use the
remind
methods of
those who are
operation
saying
and
that this is completely
against
an
that.
Nasir-ul-Islam, please listen to the other panelists as well.
Sir, थोड़ा सुन लीजिए.
Yeah, I am listening. आपकी ही
Please,
बात
sir,
कर
with
रहा हूँ.
respect, please just yes, sir. What I am trying to,
Maroof
Anand,
sir,
sir,
go ahead.
please hear me out. See, whenever people in Kashmir think, sir, please hear me out. Whenever this argument is put forward in Kashmir that resolve Kashmir, it is a euphemism for let Kashmiris join Pakistan. Because even Sheikh Abdullah, in his speech at the United Nations in 1948, was on record to say that Pakistan and India were two options that Kashmiris had, but Kashmiris chose India because they could never trust Pakistan. And words to that effect.
No.
Now, I would recommend, sir, that you read a book by an Australian who spent 17 years in Pakistan and POK. Sir, मेरी किताब आप बात तो सुन. If you want to shout, sir, I can shout louder. Please, don't get worked up. No, don't get worked up. Listen logically. Anand, you know, what you need to do is after some time.
Yeah. Yes, Maroof.
Sir, मेरी बात तो सुन लीजिए. What I'm saying is, when you think that Pakistan is providing some kind of a dreamland for all you Kashmiris to go to, just read some of the accounts on how badly the Pakistanis treat the people of what we call POK and they call Azad Kashmir. Christopher Snedden, in his book The Untold History of Kashmir, lays bare 500 pages of evidence with footnotes and everything that यहाँ तक जो उनकी वहाँ elected government है, that is sworn in Islamabad and not Muzaffarabad, और आप कहते हैं यहां पे आपको फंडामेंटल राइट्स नहीं है, जब आपकी सरकार वन आफ्टर अनदर गेट्स इलेक्टेड एंड स्वर्न इन Srinagar with very little tampering and interference from Delhi, at least in the last 10 to 15 years. Yes, there was meddling in the past, I admit, but not in the last 2 to 3 elections. That's one.
The choice of the people.
Which UN resolution? Should I tell you about the UN resolution, sir? Do you know?
Yes,
do you know
go
with
ahead.
Pakistan
Yes,
having
1949,
seceded
yes,
parts of Jammu and Kashmir to the Chinese? Sir, hear me out. Sir, when they have given parts of Jammu and Kashmir to the Chinese, the UN resolution have become irrelevant. The resolution was between India and Pakistan. How does China become a party to it all?
Mr. Nasir-ul-Islam,
you have to remove the subject.
Mr. Nasir-ul-Islam,
let me also
between what you are saying,
all you people, let me
yes,
tell you,
Maroof.
sir. Let me tell you. Let me complete.
Okay.
Let me complete.
Okay.
All these people who bleed their hearts for the youth of Kashmir. आपका कोई रिश्तेदार गया है कश्मीर के लिए लड़ाई लड़ने? आप तो बच्चों को भेज रहे हैं. And you are sending children out there to go and become cannon fodder. Any of your relatives have gone? You are just trying to win brownie points. Tell me, sir, tell me on this show, how many of your relatives have been hit by pellet guns?
All right, Maroof, just want to. Okay, Mr. Nasir-ul-Islam, आप कश्मीर की आवाज नहीं रहे अब. Mr. Nasir-ul-Islam, आप कश्मीर की आवाज नहीं रहे अब. आपकी बातें सुन के मुझे लग रहा है. Maroof, 1 minute. Yes,
If
Maroof.
your children have died,
Maroof,
if
1
your
minute.
children have died,
1 minute.
my colleagues have also died.
I have seen generations
If
of
your
young
children have
soldiers
died, my
sacrifice
colleagues
their
have
lives
died.
protecting
My heart
Kashmiris.
bleeds for them also.
Yes, Maroof.
And they have died for a good cause.
Nasir-ul-Islam,
They have not
आप
died
आज
fighting and supporting
आप
for
कश्मीर की आवाज
militants.
नहीं रहे. आप कश्मीर की आवाज नहीं है अभी. आप सुन भी नहीं पा रहे कि कश्मीर की आवाज क्या रही है अब. आप मेरी बात सुनिए. आप सुन भी नहीं पा रहे कि कश्मीर की आवाज क्या बता रही है, कश्मीरी क्या बोल रहे हैं. 66% था वोटर टर्नआउट स्टेट इलेक्शंस में. They have braved all kinds of unrest to come out and vote. They have braved. They have ignored. Please listen to me. They have ignored the calls of all kinds of separatists, all kinds of troublemakers to go out and vote. The children have ignored all kinds of calls that were made of a shutdown and a band, and they have gone to schools. They have voted. They have gone to schools. You are missing the message that the people of your own state are telling you.
6 months.
They have moved on. You have not moved on. People have. All you are trying to do is now stick to the narrative which was probably valid in a larger scheme of things 20 years ago. Shabnam Loan.
Stick together.
Shabnam Loan, even you will agree with this. People have moved on. They want peace. They want progress. They want development. They want education. They want jobs.
All these points.
The fact is, you need to stop selling this narrative to people. Shabnam Loan, this narrative needs to be stopped right now. That Pakistan is a crucial part of this. The only crucial part that Pakistan is playing in all of this is to make it worse for Kashmiris. And it is nobody else but the Kashmiris who need to realize it. Shabnam Loan.
Listen, we cannot, Tanvi, we cannot live in a political void. The fact is that these things keep on recurring and keep on happening. It is high time for all of us now to get together and find a solution. Now let me assume that what Anand and what the other learned panelists put up, let me say you are correct.
What politically get together, Shabnam Loan? Politically get together with whom? Internally, yes. Internally, yes. Between our own leaders, politically get together with Pakistan in what sense? What role do they have? What is it that you are expecting from a terror state? What is it that you are expecting from a terror state to do?
If there is an
then why give them any value? Why bring in their name?
Now let us assume what you are saying is correct. What is the internal policy you have to counter that external threat? Is your internal policy 100%? Does it have some viability? If it would have had some viability, then these things would not have happened. You are missing the point.
Shabnam Loan, as you raise this concern.
You have failed at many points.
Shabnam Loan.
You see, you need a leader
Please.
of great repute.
True.
There is leadership crisis in Kashmir. Now the present or any incumbent chief ministers, these governments will not be able to handle this complex issue. You need to have a broad-based policy.
Right.
You need to have people in New Delhi
Accepted,
who understand
appreciated,
the
accepted,
complexities of this
appreciated.
issue.
Accepted,
That is
appreciated.
extremely important.
Shabnam Loan, but you also need to unequivocally, the Kashmiris need to turn around and say that this is not a matter which Pakistan intends to settle for Kashmir ever. Pakistan just wants to grab Kashmir for itself. It has no regard for Kashmiris. It has scant respect for Kashmiris, and it does not have the interest of Kashmiris in mind. The plight of Kashmiris who are stuck on the other side is evident. That's the reality.
Sushant, Sareen, you are entitled to your point of view.
No, it's not a point of view. It's not a point of view. It's not a point of view. Multiple independent. See, people are not at no point. Am I not saying? Am I denying the fact that there is strife? There was strife in Kashmir. What I'm saying is, ma'am, very clearly that this is being orchestrated from the other side just to create, just to ensure that the valley always remains in a flux. Please understand, it is not in Pakistan's interest to see Kashmiris prosper, but it is in India's interest that we see that our state prospers and our people prosper. Please understand this. This is something which is not being understood on ground, and when you have people like the Mufti trying to project a false picture, one wonders where the youth of the state are being misled, and who is misleading them, and at what cost and for what reason. Shabnam Loan, your concerns of need for strong political leadership and for interventions is correct. Internally, it's a matter that the democratically elected governments and the Union of India has to solve, because it's a state which is undergoing some issues. But these external influences are also being encouraged by people like Inam Nabi and those apologists like the Deputy Mufti. They have to stop doing this to realize that they are not propagating the interest of Kashmir and Kashmiris. They are only pushing their own self-interest and the interests of Pakistan. That's what's happening. They don't bother about Kashmiris, sir.
What we are missing,
Sushant, Sareen, they don't. This is something. No. Please understand. You are in 2017. You are not in the 1980s. You are not in the 1970s. You are in 2017, and in 2017, the Kashmir that is integral part of Jammu and of India is eons ahead of the Kashmir that is stuck in Pakistan hands.
Foreign policy.
That's the reality today. That's the reality today. See, policy-wise, what this has to stop. It is only the Kashmiris here who can stop this and say, enough. I am not going to help you nefarious elements and you terrorists anymore. We are not going to send our children as cattle fodder. And the youth have to realize this, that they don't have the interest in mind. They're just going to send you back to be killed again. Sushant, Sareen, this is something that we have to decide.
Shabnam Loan keeps quiet, then maybe I can
Yes, Sushant.
We want them to be educated.
Yes.
We want stability and peace.
Yes. Okay. Tell Inamun Nabi that. Tell the Deputy Mufti that. Send them to schools. Don't send them to schools to study. Send them to jobs. Send them for jobs. Send them for vocational skills. Send them to train so that they know what to do with their life. Don't encourage them to pick up AK-47s handed over by Pakistan. Yes, Sushant, Sareen.
Will never vote for something wherein education goes to the back seat.
Okay, the basic point which Shabnam Loan makes, I think, is unexceptionable. There is.
Yes, Sushant.
If she lets somebody talk, then maybe.
Go ahead.
See, the basic point she makes is all very well, but the point is that where do you manufacture a leadership from? When you manufactured or tried to manufacture a leadership in the earlier decades, you actually messed up things, right? So I don't think anybody in the government of India should or can manufacture leadership. So if there is a leadership crisis, you'll just have to go through a political process before the strong leadership or a sincere leadership which Shabnam Loan talks about, and perhaps she should throw her hat in the ring, can come about in Kashmir. It doesn't come about just like that. It has to be as part of a process. The second point is what Maroof said. He actually snatched the words from my mouth. It's laughable the way people come to your television or any of the so-called separatist leaders who act as the voice of the Kashmiris not one of their kids actually gets onto the street to do the stone pelting, either gets injured in pellet firing, either gets shot, but they will act as though they are the voice of the Kashmiri people. Who do they represent? What election have they won? Can they win a panchayat level election? Probably not. Now the point is that until and unless, rather than acting as the voice of the people, why don't they give their blood for this struggle which they think is so important and which is creating these martyrs? Why isn't Mr. Nabi's son or the Deputy Grand Mufti's son one of the martyrs? Why isn't one of their kids? These people incite, they instigate mobs, but their own kids will study in some nice elite school, some university outside India. Their kids will never be part of this. That is the great travesty and the great tragedy of Kashmir.
Yes,
that
exactly.
These people are vultures.
So Sareen, you've exactly said what I would have countered. You've exactly raised the point that I would have countered Shabnam loan with Shabnam loan, and that is the answer to every time you say. Sushant Sareen, 1 minute. That is the point, Shabnam loan. Every time you say we need to sit and have a political dialogue with whom? With people who are just trying to take benefit and take advantage out of the situation, who have in their own hearts no genuine intention of resolving the issue. Because if they did, their own people would be there trying to resolve this issue. They are just trying to play politics over it, Shabnam loan. So please, let's not play into their hands.
Then what is the answer?
The answer begins.
We see this.
The answer begins by first acknowledging. The answer begins by first acknowledging that we can't allow ourselves to be carried away by what our neighbor wants to do and the narrative that they want to feed you guys. The answer begins by acknowledging that what is happening in the valley today is primarily yes, but you have to also acknowledge who the dialogue has to be with people.
जो बिक गए हैं दुश्मन के हाथ, उनको बाहर करें, उनको सामने लाएं. And those who have the interest of Kashmir, those who have the interest of Kashmir, and those who believe, let's work with those. See, this entire Azadi League has come crashing down. They stand exposed. Let's just discount them and tell them they can go and ply their wares elsewhere, not on India, not on our soil. Enough and more youth have lost their lives, and they've been squandered and taken astray by giving them this entire thing about hold a gun and you become a hero. That is false. That is false, and people who are doing this need to be weeded out, and they need to be pulled out of the system. And it's time Kashmir stands up to these people and says enough is enough. With that, we wind up debate number 2 on the Newshour tonight. Thank you very much to all our panelists.
Thank you.